Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode we are joined by a very special guest, current Detroit Warhawks player, Matt Spoelhof. Matt's been spent the last couple games in the MIHL, in the Michigan Independence Hockey League season with the Detroit Warhawks, and got in a game with the Alpena 45ers as well. But he's been through everything with the Michigan Independence Hockey League, from play-by-play announcer with the Gaylord Snow, the inaugural one, and then he's also been creating some content for the MIHL with his brand as well, the Melted Ice podcast. So I'm super excited to have Matt on the show. So welcome to the show, Matt Spoelhof.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's been an episode in the making, that's for sure. It's been a while, but glad that we're finally able to sit down and talk everything from hockey, your career, and getting into hockey, and the mill as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is we've been trying to get to this since late December.
Yeah. And it's currently March 27th, so it's been 3 months in the making, but hey, it's better late than never.
Amen to that.
Yeah, but to start things off, like, how have you been? Like, you had a couple games in the MIHL, which you've been working towards for the last year or so, or a couple years. It's like you played with the Alpena 45ers for a game, and then you also played with the Detroit Warhawks towards the end of the regular season. So how is how have you been? How's that been? And just getting your foot in the door of the MIHL.
Well, I mean, it's for me, yeah, it's there's gonna be a lot of guys that watch this episode that go, it's senior A hockey. It's nothing, it's glorified, it's contact beer league. For me, I grew up a hockey fan. I think I was born in September. By October, November, I was at my first hockey game. So I grew up around the sport. I grew up on the ice. Just that is what I wanted to be. So for me, it was like, hey, even at 27 years old, I get to say I played in a league. I got to be a part of something that I saw from the day the seed was planted, and I got to be a player. And I got to, especially for my kids, it was awesome to be able to do something like that in front of my kids, make that debut, and have my kids there, and the support that they gave me every step of the way, and the motivation even today as I try to take that momentum I've got 2 games now. I want to get an entire season in the MIHL and try to make a career out of it, whether it's in the MIHL or maybe I get called up to the Fed League. Maybe I get good enough to get called up to the Fed League. Uh, you know, I know the gap for the for anything higher than that is probably in my rear view a long time ago. But I'm incredibly grateful for Miles Griggs, the Alpino 45ers, for giving me that one shot to at least get a taste for it. I will say, as a man who has had his battles in life, playing in the MIHL has become my new addiction. Playing organized hockey has become my new addiction in life. Uh, it's I got that one game in, and I think I blew up Miles' phone for 4 or 5 days. Hey man, is there any way you got a spot on the roster for me permanently? No, no. Well, a couple months had passed, and or about a month or so had passed. I was actually down in Mississippi for some work training when Zach Dance of the Muskegon Voyagers had reached out and said, "Hey, are you interested in playing another game in the MIHL?" Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, I've been trying to scratch that itch ever since the first game. Great. Detroit needs a guy for this weekend. I'm gonna have Jimmy get a hold of you. Okay, cool. Hadn't heard anything for a couple hours or so. Finally, Jimmy Bolton. Most respect for that man in the world. Um, I was in the airport in Clinton, Mississippi, when he had called me, and he's like, "Hey, I think this was like a Friday. He says, "Hey, we need a guy. I heard you were interested. Would you be willing to skate?" And our conversation essentially went along the lines of like, "Yeah, I'm down to skate. I've been trying to get on a roster, since I skated with Alpino." Really? Yeah. Okay. Well, great. You're on ours now. We're gonna sign you. Like, if you want to be here, we want you here.
Yeah.
I got to play that one game with them, and unfortunately, I got healthy scratched the next seven plus two playoff games for the next nine, 9 games. But to be on that bench with those guys and in the locker room with Tommy Morgan, Ian Tucker, Miles Finley, just to name a few, Josh as well. Um, it was a surreal experience, a wonderful group of guys. I am hoping that I don the blue and yellow again next season.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're able to get your chance, and like it goes to tell that like you never know when that opportunity is going to come. Like you didn't know when that next opportunity is going to come, and then you're in the airport getting a call, and the next day or you're playing another game in the MIHL. It's like what was it like just finally getting like an opportunity to actually get a game, another game, and just like take advantage of it.
Oh, I mean, so I'll bounce kind of back and forth between the two. When I first played the first game in Alpena, it was like shell shock. I was
Yeah,
like, "Holy, I've made it this far." Playing that second game, different group of guys, you know, playing with a short bench in Muskegon of all places. Muskegon has an incredible team, a lot of great players on that team.
yeah,
Um, we got our rear end stomped, but to be a part of the Warhawks and to be a part of that game and see under the leadership of that captain, their captain Tommy Morgan, it was it's a different experience. It was mind boggling to see this guy who has come into rinks week in and week out and you know get dealt the bad end of the stick, keep his head up, keep his team motivated, trying to figure out things. Completely shocked me when he read off the starting lineup at the beginning of the game and he's got me starting at center. I know my role in hockey, it's not to go out and score goals. I'm not going to go out and put 20, 30 up in a season. You might be lucky to get 5 out of me.
yeah,
And, but to start in the place where I reside, in the city I reside, Muskegon, Michigan. Granted, I was not wearing a Voyagers jersey, but to have that honor to play in front of my parents, this was the very first time my father and my stepmom were able to actually, and even my younger sister were able to watch me play hockey outside of a Sunday night men's league. So it's a surreal, it was, for me, it checked off a lot of firsts for me and a lot of
yeah.
boxes that I was incredibly happy to check off.
Yeah, that's awesome, and like especially being in front of your family and everything, and then just how hard you've worked the last couple years to get back into it, and then especially after like you end up not playing hockey for a few years, and then you come back and you're able to just put everything you have into it. Like here at On the Spot Sports, like obviously like you're like you just got to take advantage of every opportunity, and no, you can't let anyone tell you no. Like you just got to keep going, keep grinding, and you never know what could happen. Like if you have a dream, like go out and work for it, work your bag off and grind, and you'll eventually find a spot for you. So like that's what you've done. So like heading into next season, what do you think you have to work on to get into a full-time roster for a whole season?
Well, I think, for starters, kind of going back to the fundamentals, stuff they touch, they teach you in mites. They, making sure you're making good passes, keeping your head up. Um, Definitely got to, it's going to be more of a physical thing for me than it is going to be a mental. Um, because I'm 10 years out of playing contact hockey of any
Yeah,
sort. And to step back in there, it's like, okay, now you get, you get lackadaisical, you get lazy. And when you're playing Sunday night men's league and beer leagues, you kind of tend to let those fundamentals slip away from you. So,
Yeah.
this off season, that's going to be a lot of going back to the basics and keeping it simple. A lot of weightlifting, a lot of cardio, um, because for anybody who wants to dog on the MIHL, and I will be the first to say, being up in the press box, being, behind a phone screen as, a content creator, I used to diss the product and say, hey, it's whale crap hockey. Like because you see it on the outside, on the outside of the glass, and you see the scores of 17-3, 15-0, and you go, oh well, yeah, this isn't a. These teams just aren't that good. It's just bad hockey. And then you get out there and you realize how fast it actually is going. Like it looks a lot slower through the glass. And then that again, go back to that first game in Alpena. I was like, what? It's like I'm standing in the middle of an infield in a NASCAR race, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I know I have the speed to do it. I've I've, I've always had speed on my side, so I think it goes back to getting back in shape. Eating a little bit healthier, hitting the weight room again. Getting back into a running schedule. Essentially, just getting myself back into shape and hoping for the best.
Yeah. That's all you can do. And like you got a taste of it this year, and like you can go off of that, and like in any league, like something looks a lot slower behind the glass, but like once you're actually like on the ice, like in the game, like it's a whole different breed. Like it's way faster than it seems, and like a lot of like a lot of people would not be able to handle it. So you just gotta take advantage of it and just learn from what you learned this season and just put it on to next season and come even better. But yeah. But like you've seen literally everything from in the mill, from behind the glass as a spectator, a content creator, and play-by-play announcer. So like what has the MIHL meant to you over these last 5, 6 years that it's been around?
So to put it simply, the MIHL is my baby. I was originally, and I will be the first to admit, I made a lot of poor business decisions. I was originally supposed to have a team in Holland, Michigan. I made a lot of bad business decisions. I let a lot of people get inside of my head. Um, and I live by a quote nowadays that I wish I would have learned back then. And it's doubt. Doubt makes you F withable. It cracks the foundation in which you stand on. These days, I've learned to be un-F withable. Um, I don't doubt myself. I've learned, and it goes back to a classic situation of if I'd have known then what I know now.
Yeah.
Um, but the MIHL has been my baby. I've been blessed with the opportunity to stay so intertwined in this league since day one. Excuse me. Um, the becoming a play-by-play broadcaster, that was I have no background in that at all. I mean, just every step of the way, it's been something that there's been very little background in or none. Um, my extent of broadcasting background came from um, a few conversations with me and a good friend of mine sitting on his couch when we first started the Melted Ice podcast. We talked about the Peter Mrazek trade when he got traded from Detroit to Philly. And
Now
then
he's
it grew
back
from,
in Detroit.
yeah, I know I'm not happy about that one. But so the extent of my being on a microphone had been just me and a bunch of guys sitting down and a bunch of good friends of mine. Shout out Drew Roper and Jake Reed and my brother Connor, um, because we sat down in a coffee shop here. They local coffee shop let us bring our mics and our, entire setup, and we sat down and started creating podcast. Well, I'd walked away from it for a few years. We all got busy and just couldn't do it on a weekly anymore. Um, Decided to jump back into it uh, with Jake and a newfound friend of mine up in Canada, Dane. We had jumped into it for a few episodes. I think we had Brady Leovold on one episode. We had Miles and Phil on the very first reunion episode, I guess you'll call it. Um, After I think the second time I had Miles on there, I had made a joke about, oh yeah, I'm pretty good on the mic, and he's like, yeah, you ever thought about play by play for the right price? And we started talking numbers to be able to get me to, be able to afford going up to Gaylord. That was in February of the inaugural year. Went up there for that season, kind of tried to get, find out who I was behind the mic, and then came back for that second year and did a lot better. I stopped trying to be anybody else besides myself. There were a lot of fun sayings that I learned that the people of Gaylord enjoyed when they listened to the games on YouTube. One of them being that it turns out they all liked the northbound on a southbound freeway. Look out. But so, to be able to do that for Gaylord and Miles to give me that opportunity, the only reason I didn't go back for a third year is because the good Lord blessed me with my one and only daughter.
Yeah.
And at that point, I decided 3 kids at home, driving 3 hours. It's time to go home and be a dad. I That's when TikTok started to kind of become a thing. So I was against TikTok at first, and then everybody started sending them to me, and I was like, okay, this is a good avenue to keep melted ice alive. You know, I don't have the time of day having 3 kids and working a full time job to be on a microphone for 2 hours a week to
Yeah.
shoot an episode. And it became a family experience. And my kids would go out, we'd go to games and film. We live in a day and age where technology, you've got somebody's attention for 30 seconds tops.
Yeah.
So
True.
as a content creator, I have to go through thousands of clips that I shoot in a single game and go, which clips are going to give me, 30 seconds to 45 seconds of somebody's attention, and going from there. It was it was great to be able to do that. And I even started doing it a little bit at the beginning of this season. Um, when the whole focus of life changed, it went from being content to hunger, drive, motivation to be back on the ice, to be a part of something so special. And let me tell you, Detroit has something very special going on. I think that they have the atmosphere that James Bolton has created in that locker room, um, right along with some of his key guys, Tommy Morgan as well. He goes back to Jimmy and Tommy. Those two have built a culture that I want to be a part of. You know, I'm happy to say I got a small taste and a small sample size of being a part of that culture. Um, my 5-year-old wants to be a Detroit Warhawk when he grows up.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about.
To have my 5-year-old who that kid, everybody calls him Junior. He looks like me, acts like me, and he just wants to be a hockey player.
Yeah.
You know, he just like me. From that young of an age, he wants to be a hockey player. Um, Jimmy Bolton to be able to create an environment where a 5-year-old goes, I'm going to play for you when I'm bigger. And he loves it. And he loves being around. He's been around locker rooms since he was a baby,
Yeah.
you know, but for him to this last weekend in Muskegon, he was in the locker room every step of the way, you know, by the guys every step of the way for him to get that full experience of what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. Um, I really wish he didn't want to be a goalie. That'd be great.
There we go. Little goalie love. I like it.
He's and I have Miles Griggs and Ian Freeman to thank for that one because he's been obsessed with goalies ever since meeting those two. Um, but he, the culture is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Being in a player like I've never felt more of an ability in today's world to be myself and to be who not have to put on some kind of a veil or smother my personality. Like in that locker room with Detroit, it's it's its own kind of utopia, I guess. Just the culture that these guys have. They a lot of times, and I know this because I've had the chance to in these last 5 years really um, diverge into the general public and get opinions and hear people's thoughts. A lot of times, hockey players get the reputation of being pretentious. You know, same with football players. Those two alone, we get this reputation of pretentious or greedy or rude and disrespectful. And I think the MIHL does a great job of bringing in, for the most part, guys that they're just humble. They're humble.
Yeah.
They realize that this is a blessing. We are getting to put on a show and play a child's game as grown adults, and we get to continue to live our dreams. And that's what it's about. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, that's all it is about. It's as long as I continue to lace up my skates and play hockey, I do it in my men's league games. It is for the kids. It is always for me. It's always been for the kids. It will always be for the kids. It's never been for me. Hockey's never been about the money and a get rich quick scheme. It's always been about putting product on the ice and putting on a show for kids. I fell in love with this game because of guys like Robin Bouchard and Todd Robinson, or I'll even go as far as the reason I wear the number 34, and that's this year excluded because I was a late addition to rosters, but Jason Lawmaster was my absolute favorite player growing up. Just a gritty, hard-nosed guy who wasn't afraid to get in the corners, wasn't afraid to stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes you need a guy like that on the team when things aren't going your way and you want to turn things around. Gotta have that guy to just be gritty, grind it out, and not be afraid to get into the dirty areas.
You gotta have I'm a firm believer, even now in 2025, at every team at every level has got to have one guy on their team who's willing to set the tone.
Yeah.
And I'm that guy.
Yeah. Hey, that's everyone has a role on the team, and that is also one of the roles on the team. So it's so you and I agree with that. Like you never know what could happen during a game, and like not even just for fighting, but just to set the tone and just get the momentum going the other way, like with a big hit, a big fight, like or just a guy that's just gonna boost the energy and the morale. Like you need a guy like that on a team.
Absolutely. And what other kind of guy to have than a 6'4" ADHD guy?
Just gotta keep buzzing and just get on the ice and buzz around a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like the MIHL is obviously growing and has been growing over the last 6 years has been around. So like what do you think it should be, or what do you think it should continue doing to help with that growth? Like I know there's new teams like the Flint Shadow coming in this year and like a couple other new teams as well. So What do you, from your perspective, like what do you think the league needs to do to grow more?
Honestly, I would love to see this league, and I know we're probably a few years out on seeing the MIHL get to, 10, 12 teams. I've been saying it since year three. 10, 12 teams, 8 guys in. Top 8 are in. Run your playoffs that way. Number one thing is expansion.
Yeah,
I would love to see the league spread essentially. Right now we have, with Flint being added, there's 3 teams on the east side of the state, one on the west and one in the northern part of the state. Um, I'd like to see them spread away from that and get into some of these other markets. One I have been preaching to anybody who will listen is the Hudsonville Jenison area. They have a barn there, Griff's Georgetown is I think is what it's called. Griff's Ice House Georgetown. It is an immaculate barn. I loved playing there when I was just playing men's league. The setup they have, the facility itself is just it's a great facility. It's probably in all the barns I've been in, it's top 5
yeah,
for small local barns. Um, I would love to see a team, some more teams on the west side of the state, even branching down into some of them southern part of the states. I think St. Joe, last I knew, had a rink down there. I haven't been to it to see it. Um, would be, it'd be nice. Just spread out a little bit more throughout the state for starters. Um, Another thing, and this is something Muskegon does. Oh God, it sucks coming out of my mouth, man. They do it very well. Is fan involvement. I have yet to go to a Waterford, Detroit, or Alpena game. I know Gaylord was they were getting there, but it wasn't. They hadn't crossed over the hill yet. They hadn't
yeah,
hit the peak of the hill yet on it before they had left for Alpena. Um, I know Kalkaska did a good job last year while they were in there. Anytime you took a picture in Kalkaska, they had they had pretty full barn. Um, but fan involvement, get these fans something to cheer about. As a guy who fights, I know that there's a time and a place for it. I'm not going to go out there every shift looking for something to, drop them with.
yeah,
It's a great way to have your career cut short. Um, but teams, especially, if you're at your own home barn, and you can feel it. A lot of the times, you can feel the air just get sucked out of the building. And the number one complaint I have heard from fans, from people who have seen the MIHL prospect, is the scores. Um, get these fans involved, get them something to get on their feet. You know, away team, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do, but you're at home and you're getting pumped, 12-5. Throw down. Somebody's got to set the tone, get the fans back in it because you know, that changes the momentum.
yeah,
If you can get the fans in your own rink back in your favor, and I think this is why Muskegon and Waterford are so successful, is because of the fact that they don't have to necessarily fight to get their fans involved. They score a couple of back-to-back quick goals, and you know they've got fans on their feet.
yeah.
Um, that is, the third and final thing I would really have, I would like to see the league do is, you know, do more special edition jerseys. You know, get acknowledge those people that are part of the community. These first responders, the military. I know, as far as I know, every team in the league does a hockey fights cancer night. Um, you know, do a special edition jersey. It's You get your jerseys for pennies on the dollar. Let's be honest. I've been in these owners' shoes.
Yeah.
You get you when it comes to you can have a sponsor the jersey. You get them for what, 50, 60 bucks, you know, for a set of them. Most cases, um, you get them for 50, 60 bucks. Do a shirts off, shirts off our back night. I know baseball does it all the time.
Yeah, that'd be
All the
sick.
time it's something. Do a jersey. Junior hockey's doing it where they're doing auctions at the end of the night for these jerseys. You make your money back and then some. If it's for the owners that are out there watching, it's not hard. The Fed leagues, I see the Fed league all the time has some kind of an auction or raffle going on for jerseys. Um, but outside of the ownership perspective of it, the fan perspective, I am will always be a lifetime hockey fan. I love getting the specialty jerseys, the one-offs, the stuff I can't go online and order. I want that jersey. I have a pink, and I'm not a guy who wears pink at all, but I have the Hockey Fights Cancer jersey from the Gaylord Snow. Um, I don't wear it as much, but I collect them.
Yeah.
I collect jerseys till the day I die. Just these specialty jerseys, they're a novelty, and people will pay. Man, I have seen jerseys because I keep an eye on the auctions for the NHL ones because there's a few that I want to get. These auctions, man, they go. At the National Hockey League level, there's people paying $30,000 for a freaking jersey, man. It is ridiculous.
It's surprising how much specialty jerseys go for, but makes sense that it's something unique. So everyone wants a one-off jersey and just want something new and to add to their collection. Like they're gonna spend the money.
Yeah, and they'll wear it out in public. And anytime you wear somebody a jersey, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, hockey, anytime you are wearing a jersey out in public, you are a walking advertisement.
Yeah.
It's I would love to see those three things. I would love to see more teams do, and I don't know, I could be completely speaking out of line here. More teams do kids clubs because that's where, as a dad of three, I can tell you firsthand the reason I spend so much money on hockey and going to hockey games is because my kids love it. They love
Yeah.
going. They want to all every time they come over, Dad, what game are we going to? Can we go to this game? Can we go? I've been asked 6 times this year alone if we can go to Detroit. We watch the Red Wings play.
Yeah,
But
that just proves that it's like doesn't matter the league even like doesn't matter the league like kids want to go to hockey games and like it's free marketing that way and then you get the kids into it and then they want to keep coming back like it
and if you get the
makes
kids to go, mom and dad have got to
yeah
go too.
makes
And
great
then mom and dad
memories
are
with
going.
for the family.
Exactly. And some of my kids' most prized memories are being at the rink.
Yeah.
Um, my kids have been there for all of my first in the MIHL, my first game as a broadcaster. Um, they were there for my first and my last game of the broadcast. They were there for my first game when I started content creating, my first game as, a player. They've hit all of these milestones with me. And every step of the way, through every trench I feel like I can't get out of. I've got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an 8-year-old going, "You've got this, Dad. If nobody else believes in you, we do."
It's all you need.
And that's my motivation right there for everything, man. Is my kids, I just want to, when it's all said and done and it's time to put me in the grave, my kids can go, "My dad was my idol. My dad was my hero. He showed me that no matter what happens in life, I got this."
Yeah. Like that's like inspiring just because like obviously you're gonna have those days, but like you have that motivation, like it's gonna make you go that even further than you would if you didn't have the motivation. Like that motivation with your kids like brings you even more inspiration and you just want to do everything you can to help to like inspire them as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like that's awesome, and like that's inspiring. They're always there for your first too, so that makes it even more special.
Still think it's funny. My 5-year-old this last weekend actually told uh, the Warhawks locker room that nobody was allowed to wear 34 because that's his dad's number.
That's unreal, and like that's another moment where it's like that it brings joy to everyone. It doesn't matter because it's a funny laugh, and like next year hopefully you get 34. No one wears it.
Absolutely. Um, as far as Jimmy's concerned, if I do come back next year, it's mine, hook, line, and sinker. He was prepared to give it to me this year, but I was like, I don't know how many more games I'm suiting up for, so let's
Yeah,
not go making a jersey if I only suit up for one more game.
yeah. But next year you're gonna play a full season, so you got to get that going.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you've obviously like you said, you've been a broadcaster, content creator, and player in the mill. And like you said, you've had unreal like stories that came out of it through broadcasting with the snow. And then obviously as a player too, it's like what have been like some of like the stories that stick out to you throughout your career so far?
So I'll go through top three stories. My first all the way to third. I'll do it vice versa what normal people would, I guess. Um, I was up in Gaylord broadcasting, and I believe it was a playoff game between Gaylord and Muskegon. Uh, this particular night, Cole Emery loved the man. For the longest time, I thought he was off the wall, but he's a good guy. He's good company. I was up in the broadcast booth, and I think he had gotten like 4 or 5 penalties that night. Well, it was the last penalty he had gotten for the night. I had made a comment, and the way they set up there at Otsego County Sportsplex, the way we set it up is I was right behind the timekeeper's table and both penalty boxes. I had made a broadcast on Cole Emery picking up frequent flyer miles to the penalty box, and he was yelling at me. And I guess from my understanding, is it may or may not have gotten picked up on the microphone that he was going to come up there and we were going to fight and whatnot. And I we went to intermission and I kind of yelled back down to him. I was like, "Dude, you're trying to fight a play-by-play guy. Like it's not very cool." We talked after that game, and ever since then it was the ongoing running joke of, "Are you going to fight me tonight?" Every time Muskegon would come up to Gaylord, you're not going to fight me tonight, are you? Do I need to have security in the box with me? Just kind of a joke, joke with him. And he always took it so lightheartedly.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of my second favorite memories that I have of being in, a part of the MIHL comes as a content creator. Um, I'm very much when it comes down to, okay, I have no contractual obligations. I'm not in a public eye. I'm kind of a loose filter. You never know what's going to come out of my mouth. Um, well, it was a game in Muskegon, and I believe it's Kalkaska, I want to say. Um, Big hit laid in the glass, laid up against glass, shatters the pane of glass right in front of the stands. I hit stop on my phone to end the clip, and I went from being content creator to maintenance crew and cleanup crew really quickly. Yeah, it was always fun because the jokes, that come along with that one, they write themselves.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades. My last one actually happened. It was this whole weekend, really. This last weekend in the playoffs. Yes, we got eliminated. We got swept 2 games to nothing. Saturday's game was a phenomenal game. It was a good game, plenty of action. Sunday it was a great game, and then I had to leave before the third period, and that's when it got out of hand. Not saying that I'm the cause of it, um, but some of the memories of just being on the weekend, being on the bench this weekend, hearing how much goes on. And, again, I've played 2 games in the MIHL, so I've kind of got a small sample size of that.
Yeah.
But to be a part of the team, when you pull on that jersey or you step on that bench, it's instant. You're back in the groove of it. You're with the boys. Um, Heated playoff series to be able to, sit on the bench with my team and, you know, the chirping, man. I love some good trash talk. Like,
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
so funny, the funniest thing I've ever heard in hockey. I battled a long time ago with substance abuse. Um, I am happy to say that this June I will be 9 years sober.
There you go. Congrats.
So, but one of the things that I had heard is it was a men's league tournament, and the guy on the other bench, I don't even never met the dude a day in my life. He, he called me a crackhead, and I corrected him. I was like, it was coke, wrong drug. But just if you've got something that can get me off my game, you're a step ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that really gets to me nowadays. But this weekend, to be able to be back on the bench and throwing jabs across the glass to verbal jabs across the glass to the guys on the Muskegon bench, and I'm glad that we all realize that this is it's part of the game.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of great friends. Muskegon has got a lot of good guys on that roster that are just great people. They're
Yeah.
a great company.
Unreal people and players too.
Oh yeah, Zach Dance, great guy. Riley Prichter. I was content creating with Riley. He was great. He's such a he's such an unreal talent. Uh, it's Jordan Truxton, Joe DeFay. I mean, Joe got a guy with a shot this weekend that busted him open. I hope Austin's doing all right. I haven't heard any updates on him. While they were cleaning up the ice, Joe had come over to our bench and uh, I gave him the business of where'd you learn to take a slap shot? Because every time I see it, it goes 10 feet high and 50 feet wide. I didn't learn how to shoot here. So just to be able to have that smack talk with the guys and the relationships you build in this game, they're unlike any other game.
Yeah.
I don't care. I played high school football, high school baseball. Those friendships didn't carry over. The guys that I've been playing, rec hockey or adult hockey, beer league hockey, whatever you want to call it, wherever you're from, um, with the same group of guys since I was 18 years old. We played inline hockey at the local park since I was a sophomore in high school. Those friendships have lasted all these years, no matter where life has taken us.
Yeah.
We've all got families now, and we still manage to find a time to, hey, let's go out and on a Sunday night and hang out and play some hockey. This has been the glue of our friendship for all these years. Just hockey is very special. It's the family that it creates.
Yeah.
No matter what team you're a part of, you be a part of a team on the east side of the state, and you know somebody over there that knows somebody that knows somebody who's
It's a small
got the
world.
hookup for you on the west side.
Yeah.
So it's always just been a surreal experience to just be such a part of the hockey community. I mean, 21 years strong and some capacity in hockey.
Yeah. It's just a whole different experience that you wouldn't get anywhere else. Like, yes, it's physically and mentally tough on you, and like it's obviously like you're hitting, fighting, like chirping other guys, but like at the end of the day, like whatever happens on the ice, and then off the ice, like you could just like we've all had like just you make tons of memories off ice with the guys, with teammates, with guys that you played against that you fought the night before, fought that night, or whatever the case is, and you're just able to just have a beer or so, or like just have a good memory with them, even during the challenge and the toughness of being in the game. And if you can't, and for chirping, if you can't ditch it, or if you can't dish it, you shouldn't say anything. You shouldn't dish. If you can't dish, you can't take.
Yeah. And that's, I think my favorite chirp of all time, man, is that I've said happened this weekend too, standing behind the bench. I'm not going to mention any names. All I can say is thank you, Ryan Reeves, for giving me the idea. Or sorry, Matt Martin was the one who gave me the idea. It was I penalty gets called. I had made a comment about somebody being what 40 something years old and still playing, you know, still playing hockey. Like, and kind of looked at me, and I just told him, I was like, dude, just go dye your beard. Yeah,
That yeah, that's a pretty good chirp. Like that's it's all in fun and games, and
it
I'm
is.
sure he took it lightly and gave it right back to you.
Oh yeah, he did. He gave it back to me. I was like, all right, you know what? You sit there in timeout. I'm gonna sit over here on the bench.
Yeah, like you said, if you dish it, you have to be able to take it. Like it's like that's what happens like every day. Like a teammate would like say something during practice, and I'll say something back. So it's like so you can't let it get under you. Like you just gotta take it lightly and just move on. Just have a
Yeah,
good time with it.
exactly. You know, it's it's the only sport you can get away with doing this kind of stuff in. You know,
Yeah.
hockey players say the most out of pocket things.
Makes for the best times and the best experience, and like make that's what makes hockey the best sport in the world.
Exactly. And I wouldn't, as a guy who's played, again, baseball, football, I had a short stint in soccer. Uh, always comes back to hockey. It's
Yeah,
unlike any other sport in the world.
it really does. And just gotta keep going forward, keep grinding, and you never know what could happen if you keep staying with it. And who knows, you could find your way and move up the ladder eventually.
That's the goal. Go until we can't go.
Yeah, exactly. As long as the body can go, I'm still going.
That's the goal, man. I'm hoping that either one day I'm taking shots on you in practice up in the Fed League or taking shots on you in the game.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. And for my sake, I'm gonna make the saves.
They won't be that hard, don't worry.
That's awesome. But I think this is a great place to wrap this episode up. So Matt, thank you again for being able to come on the show. I really appreciate your time and want to wish you the best of luck with next season going forward with the mill and just working your way up the ladder.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It was a pleasure talking to you.